My dearest child, there are moments in life when the silence around you is not emptiness. It is a voice waiting to be heard. This story is not just words. It is a divine message meant for the exact moment your heart feels lost. What if I told you that heaven has already spoken your name? That the struggle you thought would never end has already been resolved in the unseen realm? Stay with me until the end, because what unfolds here will change the way you see your pain, your purpose, and your destiny forever. If this message finds a home in your heart, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the bell, because more divine whispers are coming, each one written just for you. Now, listen closely. The Creator has something to say. The voice came softly, like a truth remembered rather than newly heard. It called to Lucian not through his ears, but through the quiet space within his soul. He had not expected it. For many nights he had sat alone, burdened by thoughts that would not rest, by questions that found no answer. He had spoken to heaven many times before and felt nothing in reply. Yet on this night, the silence did not remain empty. It was filled with something alive, something that seemed to know his very heart. "My dear one," the voice said, calm and certain, "you are not forgotten. This moment has been chosen for you. The path you have walked in shadow was never wasted. Every unseen tear, every whispered prayer, every moment you thought I was distant, I was near." Lucian did not move. He did not dare. The words did not come from any direction, and yet they seemed to come from everywhere. They entered his thoughts, steady and unshakable. His first impulse was disbelief. Perhaps it was memory, perhaps imagination. But the voice carried something no memory could hold, authority clothed in love. "You have reached the turning," the voice continued. "The hours of silence have finished. I speak now because you are ready to hear." The phrase struck deeply, ready to hear. Lucian wondered if such readiness could be real. His days had been filled with disappointment, and his prayers had been spoken from exhaustion rather than faith. Yet there was something different this time. The air felt charged, not around him but within him, as if unseen movement had begun in the space of his being. "Why now?" Lucian whispered in thought. "Why after so much quiet?" The reply came without delay. "Because the quiet shaped you. The waiting was not abandonment. It was preparation. You thought nothing was happening, but deep roots were forming beneath the soil of your heart. Now it is time for them to rise." The words flowed like understanding itself. Lucian felt his mind begin to unclench. Memories of struggle came, nights spent questioning purpose, moments when he believed he had failed beyond repair. But the voice did not speak of failure. It spoke of design. Every broken moment had meaning. Every unanswered cry had been gathered. "I have seen your sorrow," the voice said, "and I have counted your hidden patience as treasure. You did not know that heaven watches the moments no one else sees. You thought you were alone, yet I walked beside you. I was the calm you could not feel, the hope that refused to die even when you gave up on it." Lucian felt something shift inside him. It was not emotion exactly, but release. The invisible weight he carried began to lighten. The certainty in the voice reached deeper than comfort. It was truth made personal. "You were led here," the voice said again, "not by accident, but by my unseen hand. I have spoken your name before the heavens, and what has been declared over you cannot be undone. You have been marked for restoration." Lucian tried to understand those words, marked for restoration. He had lost much: people, dreams, direction. Could all that be restored? His doubt rose quickly, but the voice answered even that. "Do not measure my power by what you have seen. I am not limited by time, by distance, or by what others have declared over you. You see endings, I see beginnings. You see loss, I see preparation. You see silence, I see transformation." The words unfolded within him like a revelation. His heart began to steady, not because he understood, but because he felt known. For the first time in years, he sensed that there was order behind the mystery of his life. "I have chosen this moment," the voice went on, "because the season has reached its fullness. You are standing at the threshold of change, though you cannot see the door yet. You will soon find that what was withheld from you was not denied. It was preserved for its appointed hour." Lucian felt his breath deepen. The tension in his chest eased as if invisible hands had untied a knot around his spirit. He did not know what lay ahead, but he knew that the past no longer held him captive. "Listen carefully, my child," the voice said, its tone both tender and unyielding. "The opposition you faced was not stronger than my word. The doubts that tried to silence you have already fallen. I speak now to awaken the truth within you. You are more than what pain has made you. You are more than what fear has whispered to you. You are mine." The simplicity of that last phrase, "you are mine," broke something open inside him. He did not weep, yet his whole being trembled as if something ancient had been acknowledged. The voice continued, each word like a steady pulse of light. "The time of delay has ended. The unseen world above you is no longer still. The way before you is being cleared. What once resisted you will begin to yield. The prayers you spoke in weakness were never forgotten, they were planted. And now they will bear fruit." Lucian closed his eyes. He felt no vision, no image, only awareness. Something holy surrounded him, not in space but in essence. He felt as though the boundaries between what was divine and what was human had thinned, and he was standing within that narrow, sacred meeting place. "My dear one," the voice said softly, "this is not the conclusion of your story. It is the beginning written before time itself. You are being called not to strive, but to receive. Let go of striving. Let go of the thought that you must earn favor. My love is not a reward, it is your origin." The words settled inside him like seeds of peace. His thoughts quieted completely. For the first time in his life, he did not feel the need to ask for proof. The truth was already speaking from within. "You may not understand all that unfolds," the voice concluded, "but trust this. Every unseen movement, every quiet change, is working in your favor. You are entering a season where hidden things will be revealed. Walk in this truth and do not look back. The night has done its work. Dawn is near." The silence that followed was no longer empty. It was filled with presence. Lucian remained still, his heart resting in a peace that did not depend on answers. Something had begun within him, a new kind of knowing, a new kind of strength. And though no light appeared before his eyes, he knew the voice was real. He did not need to see it. He only needed to follow. The morning of Lucian's soul began not with sunlight, but with awareness. Something unseen had shifted since the voice first spoke. He could not explain it, but every thought carried a quiet gravity, as though a deeper world had opened just beneath the surface of ordinary moments. What once felt empty now seemed alive, whispering of meaning he could not yet name. Within that stillness, he heard the divine voice again, not loud, not dramatic, but steady, clear, and undeniable. "My dear one," it said, "a decree has been spoken over you in the realm that never fades. It was written long before you knew to ask for mercy, sealed before you learned to hope again. You have been declared free. The opposition that tried to hold you has been silenced. The charges against your soul have been answered." Lucian listened, his heart tightening at the words. Declared free, how could that be true? He thought of all the ways he had faltered, the times when anger or fear had guided him more than faith. Yet the voice continued, cutting through every protest he could raise. "You still remember your failures," it said, "but I remember your endurance. You measure yourself by mistakes, yet I measure you by moments of quiet courage, by the kindness you gave when no one noticed, by the faith you held even when it trembled. You think I have forgotten your flaws. I have not. I have simply chosen to love you beyond them. The words pierced through him like pure recognition. He realized how much of his life had been spent defending himself against accusations, some from others, some from within. Every wrong choice had become a verdict, every disappointment, a sentence. Yet here was a higher court speaking on his behalf, and its verdict was mercy. Do not question why this decree was given, the voice said. It was not earned. It was chosen. The record of your hardship has been reviewed, and the outcome has been settled. What once bound you to guilt has been removed. Where others saw the end, I declared a beginning. The moment of release has already been spoken in my dwelling place. Lucien wanted to believe it. Part of him did, yet part of him resisted. How could something be decided in a world he could not see? The question rose in his heart like smoke, but the voice met it with unshakable calm. The unseen is more real than the visible, it said. You look for signs in what fades, but I work through what endures. When I declare a matter finished, no force can reopen it. When I pronounce peace, no voice can contradict it. This is the law written not on stone but on spirit, and it concerns you. Lucien felt as though a sacred document was being unrolled in the heavens, every line written with eternal authority. He could not see it, yet he felt its truth settle into his being. The decree was not about punishment or reward, it was about restoration. Something broken within him was being rewritten. For a long time, the voice continued, you thought that silence meant indifference. You believed that unanswered prayers were rejection. But what you called delay was protection. I was guarding you from roads that would have stolen your peace. I was preparing what your heart could not yet carry. The time has now come for that preparation to reveal itself. The statement resonated with a strange familiarity, as if he had always known it deep inside but had forgotten. His life had not been a series of accidents. It had been a sacred arrangement of lessons, each one shaping him quietly. You are entering a season of unveiling, the voice said. Do not expect everything to make sense at once. Truth often comes gently, like dawn breaking without noise. You will understand more as you walk forward. Trust the movement, even when it feels uncertain. My decree does not depend on your confidence. It depends on my constancy. Lucien felt his resistance weaken. The words carried no demand, only invitation. They asked nothing but trust, and yet that trust felt like everything. Listen closely, the voice continued. The realm you cannot see is filled with sound, intercession, compassion, and declaration. Your name was spoken there, and the highest authority answered. You were declared worthy not because of your perfection, but because of my presence within you. Every voice that rose to accuse has been silenced. The final word is favor. Lucien closed his eyes, not to see but to feel. A deep warmth moved through his chest, not like fire, but like quiet certainty. He could almost hear a rhythm in it, like the pulse of something greater than his own heartbeat. It was as if truth itself was breathing through him. Do not think, the voice said gently, that this decree exists only for comfort. It carries responsibility. You must walk as one who has been cleared. You must think as one who has been chosen. You must speak as one who has been redeemed. This freedom is not meant to make you idle. It is meant to make you courageous. The word courageous echoed in his thoughts long after the rest faded. It did not sound like a demand for boldness, but a reminder of identity. Courage was not found in striving, but in knowing where he belonged. Your story, the voice said softly, is no longer written in struggle. It is written in purpose. The one who opposed you cannot alter what I have decreed. You have no need to fight for your worth. You have already been claimed. A quiet understanding unfolded in Lucian's heart. The divine decree was not something external to be earned or proven. It was an internal truth to be lived. Every word of doubt that had ruled his mind began to lose its authority. He felt the weight of old self-judgment begin to dissolve. Then the voice spoke one more time, and its tone grew tender, as though leaning close. "My child, do not mistake peace for passivity. The stillness I give you is strength wrapped in silence. It is the ground beneath your next steps. You will see change not through struggle but through alignment. As you agree with what has been declared, creation itself will respond. The decree is not a sentence, it is an invitation. Accept it, live in it, speak from it. The unseen court has ruled, and its ruling is love." Lucian breathed deeply, allowing those words to sink into the deepest part of him. The voice grew quiet again, leaving behind a stillness that felt alive. He realized the decree had not only changed his future, it had rewritten his understanding of who he was. He no longer felt condemned or overlooked. The quiet that had once frightened him now felt sacred, filled with purpose. He sensed that the unseen decree would begin to manifest through his every step, though he might not recognize it right away. In that moment, Lucian understood something profound. Divine favor was not a feeling, it was a reality, and that reality had already spoken his name. He whispered softly to himself, not as prayer but as acceptance, "Let it be so. It already is. Lucian awoke the next day with a sense of quiet awareness that did not come from rest but from revelation. He could not describe it as joy or peace, for it was something deeper than both, an invisible certainty that something beyond the physical world had shifted. Though his surroundings looked unchanged, the air around his thoughts felt charged with meaning. He sensed that what had been spoken to him in secret had already begun its unfolding. Yet, within this peace, a strange weight remained. It was not fear but curiosity, an instinct to understand what had truly occurred in the divine decree spoken over his life. The memory of the voice lingered within him, not as an echo but as presence. Every word still lived in his mind, and with each heartbeat the truth deepened. There was more to be revealed. Then the voice came again, neither above nor below, but from within that sacred stillness. "My dear one," it said, calm and radiant, "you have heard my decree, but you must now understand where it came from. What you felt was not merely comfort. It was the outcome of a divine judgment rendered in your favor. The unseen tribunal has spoken." Lucian listened closely. He did not know what to expect. The words carried both mystery and finality, as though revealing the hidden workings of eternity. "In the unseen realm," the voice continued, "there exists a place beyond measure or time. It is not known to human eyes, yet it governs all that exists. Every word, every thought, every act of love or malice echoes there, and in that place, a trial concerning your life was held." The words filled Lucian with a strange awe. He could almost feel the gravity of that unseen court, a realm where truth itself stood as judge and mercy as witness. "There stood the one who accuses," the voice said, "and he spoke against you. He brought forth your failures, your doubts, your weaknesses. He spoke of your anger, your mistakes, and the times you turned away from goodness. His case was long, filled with fragments of truth twisted into lies. He spoke as though he knew everything about you, but he knew only what could be measured, not what was meant." Lucian felt his breath tighten. He could see it in his mind, not as a vision but as understanding. The accuser standing with a voice full of pride, pointing, arguing, declaring him unworthy. The thought brought no terror, only solemn recognition. It was a truth he had felt for years within himself, the inner critic that had never ceased its accusations. "But then," said the voice, steady as light, "I entered the tribunal. I did not come to argue. I did not arrive to debate your worth or explain your failures. I came to reveal what had already been accomplished. My presence silenced every accusation. I did not refute his words. I overruled them. My authority spoke once, and the chamber fell still. The record against you was erased." Lucien's heart trembled as he listened. It was not fear that filled him now, but reverence. He began to realize that every unseen weight, every feeling of guilt, every whisper of unworthiness he had carried had been part of that spiritual case. And now, that case was closed. "I examined your life," the voice said, "not through the lens of perfection, but through the eyes of compassion. I saw not just your mistakes, but the reasons they were made. I saw the pain behind the silence, the longing behind the doubt, the love that tried to survive beneath the sorrow. And I declared mercy greater than judgment." The words flowed like living truth, cutting through every layer of shame that had ever clung to him. "Understand this deeply," the voice said. "The accuser has power only through your belief in his lies. He cannot create condemnation, he only suggests it. And every time you believed you were unworthy, his voice gained ground. But that ground no longer exists. I have taken it back. You are no longer on trial. The verdict has been rendered." Lucien felt as though his spirit was standing in that unseen tribunal. He sensed the weight of justice balanced perfectly with grace. He saw, in a way beyond seeing, that the opposition had nothing left to say. There was no argument left to raise, no accusation that could stand before perfect love. The accuser was silenced, the voice continued. His strength was swallowed by mercy, and his pride was undone by compassion. "When he spoke of your weakness, I answered with my strength. When he declared your failure, I revealed my faithfulness. When he said you were alone, I showed him the truth. I was always beside you." He turned away defeated, not because of your defense, but because of my decree. Lucien bowed his head, though there was no one before him. The weight of grace pressed upon him with the force of something eternal. It was not punishment that made him tremble. It was love too vast to measure. "My child," the voice said gently, "you must understand the depth of this. You were never meant to bear your shame alone. I took it long before you named it. You were never meant to fight for your innocence. It was given before you asked. The tribunal of heaven does not decide as the courts of men do. It sees the heart, not the appearance, and it judges by mercy, not memory." The words settled into him like new life. He felt the pieces of his past, every regret, every unhealed memory, lose their sharpness. They were no longer weapons against him. They had been absorbed by a larger story, one written by hands that knew the end from the beginning. "Do not carry guilt that I have already lifted," said the voice. "Do not fight battles that I have already won. The one who accuses will try again to whisper in your ear, but now you know the truth. His words hold no authority over you. Speak what has been decreed, and his power will crumble. Declare this truth: I have been redeemed, and my case has been closed by divine mercy." Lucien whispered the words softly, as if repeating them gave them form. "My case has been closed." The phrase tasted like freedom. "Yes," said the voice, radiant with approval. "And more than closed, it has been sealed. The seal bears my name, and no power can break it. Your freedom is not fragile, it is eternal. Your past no longer defines you. The decision made in the unseen realm stands forever. Live as one who has been vindicated. Speak as one who has been chosen. Walk as one who has been made whole." Lucien felt a surge of courage rise within him. For years, he had lived beneath invisible judgment, believing that his mistakes had permanently marked him. Now, he saw the truth. What was once a sentence had become a testimony. "Remember this," said the voice. "You were not declared innocent because you were flawless, but because I loved you before flaw existed. You are free not because you escaped justice, but because justice and mercy met and became one. That is the mystery of redemption. That is the foundation of your peace." The stillness around him deepened once more. The unseen tribunal faded from his awareness, but its truth did not. He knew beyond doubt that a higher judgment had already spoken over his life, and it was mercy. He whispered a final prayer, not from fear or pleading, but from gratitude. "Let my life honor the freedom you have given. Let every step I take be proof that mercy is real." And the voice, calm and eternal, answered once more, "Then walk forward, my dear one, for the unseen tribunal has spoken, and its word will never be reversed." Lucian carried the memory of the unseen tribunal within him like a living flame. It did not fade with time, it deepened. He began to understand that what had happened was not only a declaration spoken in heaven, but a transformation taking root inside his soul. He no longer felt chained to the endless circle of guilt and striving. Yet freedom, though declared, had to be lived. It was not an escape, but a sacred unfolding, a gradual awakening into the fullness of what had already been decided. Still, old voices lingered. They did not speak as loudly as before, but they whispered at the edges of his thoughts. They questioned the permanence of mercy. They doubted the reality of grace. They asked whether he truly deserved to walk free. But even as those whispers rose, another presence within him spoke with greater strength, a steady assurance that truth had already spoken louder than fear. The divine voice came again, gentle yet firm, carrying the same tone of love that had marked every word before. "My dear one," it said, "you have heard the verdict, but now you must learn to release what no longer serves your journey. Freedom is not merely the absence of chains. It is the letting go of what keeps your heart from rising." Lucian felt the truth of it settle in his spirit. For too long he had clung to things that no longer belonged to him, regrets he could not change, pain he did not need to carry, guilt that had already been forgiven. They had become familiar companions, yet they were not friends. He realized that release was an act of trust, not of weakness. "Let it go," the voice whispered again, "for it cannot follow you where I am leading you. The burdens you carry were meant to teach, not to stay. They have served their purpose, now they must rest." At first, Lucian hesitated. To release something so familiar felt like losing a part of himself, but the voice continued, patient and unyielding. "You have mistaken heaviness for depth, sorrow for devotion, guilt for humility, but none of these are the proof of love. The proof of love is trust. You honor me not by holding on to pain, but by allowing me to take it from you. That is your worship. That is your surrender." Those words reached him in a place that reason could not touch. He understood now that holding on to what was broken was not an act of faith, but of fear. His spirit trembled, not from dread, but from the realization that freedom would require his participation. The decree had freed him, but he had to choose to walk as one who believed it. The voice spoke again, filled with quiet authority. "There is a great release taking place, Lucian. You cannot see it with your eyes, but your soul knows it. What once pressed against you will lose its hold. What once haunted you will fade like a shadow at dawn. This is not your doing, it is mine, but I ask you to agree with it. Speak release, not remembrance. Choose peace, not punishment. The past is not your home." The response came like breath, calm, infinite, unbreakable. "It already is." And something began to shift deep within him. The weight that had once seemed immovable began to dissolve, not with effort but with acceptance. He realized that forgiveness was not about forgetting the past, but about letting the past lose its power. Every wound that had once defined him began to lose its shape. The stories he told himself about failure began to sound hollow against the echo of divine truth. "Do you see now," said the voice, "that what you called loss was only a clearing? You thought things were being taken from you, but I was making space. You thought you were being reduced, but I was refining you. Every ending was an opening in disguise. Every tear was a seed, and now those seeds will bloom into understanding." Lucien felt peace fill the empty spaces left behind. It was not the fragile peace that depends on circumstances, but a sacred calm that came from knowing he was no longer at war with himself. The invisible conflict that had once ruled his thoughts was finished. "My child," the voice continued, "your heart has been a battlefield for too long. You fought to be enough, to prove your worth, to earn what I had already given. But I do not ask you to fight for love. I ask you to rest in it. Rest does not mean stillness of body, it means stillness of soul. It is the place where striving ends and belonging begins." The words sank deep into him, layer by layer, until they became part of his very being. He understood now that the greatest act of strength was not endurance, but release. "Release the idea that you must understand everything," said the voice. "Release the need to control outcomes. Release the fear that peace will vanish. Release the thought that you are still broken. You are being made whole even now. The more you let go, the more you will see that nothing essential can ever be taken from you." Lucien realized that letting go was not about losing, but about aligning. It was returning to what had always been true. The pain, the fear, the false beliefs, they had been clouds obscuring the light, and as they lifted, he saw that the light had never left. "Your healing," the voice said, "is not a destination. It is a continual unveiling. Every day you will see more of what I have already done. The world may not yet recognize the change, but heaven has already recorded it. You walk now as one marked by release. You will no longer speak from wounds, but from wisdom. You will no longer move from fear, but from faith." Lucien breathed deeply, and with that breath, something final left him, a weight, a shadow, a story that no longer had authority. He did not know how it happened. He only knew it was real. The silence that followed was not empty. It was full of presence, full of life, full of assurance that he had finally stepped into the truth that had always been waiting for him. "My dear one," the voice said once more, soft as mercy, "remember this always. Release is not the end of something. It is the beginning of everything. You are not losing what matters. You are uncovering what was eternal all along." Lucien closed his eyes, and the stillness became a sacred vow. He did not need to strive for peace anymore. He was peace, because peace had chosen him. And as the final whisper faded into the quiet, he understood that the great release was not something to wait for. It was already within him, unfolding, eternal, alive. Lucien awoke with a new kind of stillness. It was not the silence of emptiness, but the silence that follows a great battle already won. Something within him had changed, though no outward sign revealed it. He felt as though 1,000 unseen voices that once shouted in accusation had finally fallen quiet. The noise that had lived inside his mind for years, the endless cycle of guilt, doubt, and fear, had come to a sudden halt. And yet, the quiet did not frighten him. It invited him. Then the voice came again, calm and steady as before, filled with the same strength that always carried compassion. "My dear one," the voice said, "do you feel it now? The silence is not the absence of sound. It is the absence of accusation. The one who stood against you has been silenced." His voice, once sharp and persistent, has been stripped of authority. What you hear now is not the void of nothingness, it is the peace that follows victory. Lucien listened in awe. The words seemed to reach into every corner of his being. For the first time, he could truly feel the difference between the noise of fear and the quiet of grace. He realized that his whole life, he had mistaken loudness for truth. Every doubt, every criticism, every inner voice that said he was unworthy, he had believed them because they were relentless. Now, the absence of those voices revealed how false they had always been. "Understand this," said the voice. "The accuser does not vanish by his own will. He vanishes when his words lose power, and his words lose power when truth takes its rightful place. Truth is not loud, but it is unmovable. Lies tremble before it, for they have no roots." I know. Lucien thought about all the years he had lived under those lies. He remembered how they disguised themselves as reason, how they echoed familiar words from the past, voices of failure, disappointment, and fear. They had spoken with such authority that he accepted them without question. Now he could see that those voices had never come from love. They had come from the echo of accusation. The divine voice continued, "The one who opposed you built his strength from your belief in his words. Each time you agreed with his judgment, you gave him room to dwell. But I have spoken, and that room no longer exists. The foundation of his influence has been removed. He cannot return to where I have entered." Lucien felt those words like a key turning within him, unlocking something long imprisoned. The memories of shame and self-doubt that once bound his thoughts began to fade. They did not disappear in an instant, but they lost their sharpness. Their power was broken. "Listen carefully," the voice said. "The accuser thrives on echoes. When you repeat his language of fear, he grows stronger. When you speak my truth, he dissolves. That is the power of agreement. Speak life, and life responds. Speak peace, and peace stands firm. Speak my word, and every false voice must retreat." Lucien whispered softly, "Then what should I speak?" And the voice answered, gentle yet commanding, "Speak what has already been declared. I am free. I am chosen. I am loved beyond measure. I am not condemned. I am no longer bound by what I once believed about myself. The one who accuses has no right to define me." Each phrase filled Lucien like a breath of new creation. He repeated them silently, feeling their truth settle deeper with every word. It was as though his spirit was being rewritten, each lie replaced with living truth. "The silence you feel now," said the voice, "is not fragile. It is holy, but you must learn to protect it. The world around you will try to speak noise into your peace. Others may question what has happened within you. Do not defend yourself with argument. Defend yourself with stillness. The one who knows the truth does not need to prove it. Let peace be your language. Let love be your shield." Lucien listened, and something in him relaxed completely. He realized he had spent much of his life trying to prove his worth to others, trying to make them see what he could not even see in himself. Now he no longer needed to persuade anyone. The truth was not up for debate. It had been settled long before he understood it. "Remember," the voice said, "the accuser will attempt to return not with strength, but with suggestion. He cannot break through the door, but he may whisper through the cracks. He will try to remind you of what you once feared, of what you once regretted. When that happens, do not argue. Simply answer with what has already been spoken. The highest authority has declared my freedom. The case is closed. The silence is sacred." Lucien nodded, though no one could see him. He knew the battle was not about external enemies, but about inner agreement. He understood now that every word he allowed to settle in his heart became a seed that grew into either bondage or freedom. The divine voice continued, now tender, now firm. I did not silence the accuser merely for your comfort. I silenced him so that you could finally hear me clearly. For too long, his voice competed with mine, distorting what I spoke. But now, the path between us is open. When you listen, you will not hear noise, you will hear direction. You will not hear condemnation, you will hear purpose. You will not hear fear, you will hear calling. Lucian felt that truth resonate through him like a new rhythm. For the first time, he understood what it meant to walk in freedom, not the absence of struggle, but the presence of divine companionship that could not be broken. The voice grew softer now, filled with tenderness that felt eternal. You once believed that peace was fragile, that it could be stolen by disappointment or lost through failure. But peace that comes from me cannot be stolen, for it does not depend on perfection. It depends on presence. When I am near, peace is near, and I am always near. Those words filled Lucian with reverent calm. He realized that the silence of the accuser was not only a personal victory, it was a divine gift. It was the restoration of a conversation that had always been meant to exist between Creator and creation. My dear one, the voice said one final time, when you walk forward, carry this silence as a crown, not as an absence. It will guard you in moments of confusion. It will remind you of who you are. It will speak louder than any accusation ever could. The one who accused you has fallen silent, and in that silence, I speak life. Lucian closed his eyes, and the quiet deepened. It was not emptiness, it was fullness. The sound of love itself, wordless and eternal. He understood now that peace was not something to be found, it was something that had always been waiting to be heard. And in that sacred silence, the truth lived on. The accuser was gone, the verdict was sealed, and love had the final word. Lucian lived now in a quiet awareness, a calm that came not from effort but from surrender. The silence of accusation had left space for something far greater, the unmistakable nearness of the divine. He no longer felt as though heaven was distant or unreachable. There was a new rhythm within him, steady and living, as if every breath whispered the truth that he was not alone. Yet, even within this stillness, something unexpected began to stir. The voice returned, stronger now, carrying a weight that felt both gentle and commanding. My dear one, it said, you have walked faithfully through the stillness. You have accepted the decree, and you have learned release. But now the time has come for intervention. I do not send another in my place. I come myself. The words pierced deep into Lucian's soul. He had known the comfort of divine speech, but this was different. This was not a message sent. It was a presence arriving. He could sense that what was about to happen would not simply change how he felt, it would transform who he was. I am stepping into what concerns you, the voice said. The situations that have resisted you, the burdens that have lingered, the waiting that has stretched long, they are no longer untouched. My hand moves now. This is not a promise of distant hope. It is an act unfolding in this very moment. Lucian listened, breath held, though there was no fear within him. There was awe, a sense that heaven itself was bending toward his life. He felt as though the invisible world had begun to move with intention, as though something ancient and powerful had turned its gaze upon his small existence. For a long season, the voice continued, I allowed certain things to remain unmoved so that endurance could take root within you. I watched as you carried what seemed unbearable, and I gathered every moment of faith that survived the silence. But the time of stillness has passed. The time of divine movement has begun. I myself have descended into your struggle. Lucian's heart trembled with reverence. He did not understand how such a thing could be, yet he knew it was true. The presence of the Creator was not abstract or distant. It was here, now, real and active. I am not observing from afar, the voice said. I am not sending a messenger. I am here. I walk into the core of what has burdened you. The obstacles that stood before you are trembling even now. The delays that frustrated you are dissolving. The forces that resisted your growth are being scattered. What once stood immovable will now yield. Lucian could feel a shift inside him, as though invisible chains that had long constrained his soul were being removed one by one. The voice continued, filled with unwavering certainty. This is the moment of sacred intervention. It is not dependent on your strength or understanding. It flows from my will, and my will cannot be hindered. You may not yet perceive the outward evidence, but the transformation has already begun in the unseen realm. The roots of your hardship are being pulled up. The pattern that held you bound is being rewritten. He felt tears of recognition form, not of sorrow but of release. Every word carried the pulse of power clothed in tenderness. Do not resist what I am doing, said the voice. Change is often mistaken for loss, and release is often confused with chaos. When I move, old things fall apart so that true things can stand. Do not cling to what is crumbling. Trust the hand that shakes it loose. What falls away is not punishment, it is preparation. Lucian breathed deeply, and a sense of surrender settled over him like warmth. He knew now that the divine presence was not destroying but restoring. You have prayed for answers, the voice said. You have asked for signs. But now I give you something greater than both. I give you myself. You do not need to know how every thread is woven, only that I am the one weaving it. You have asked when relief will come, and I tell you this, it is already here. You have asked what your next step will be, and I say this, walk forward, for I have already gone ahead of you. Lucian felt as though the very structure of his thoughts was being remade. Every idea of control began to dissolve, replaced by trust that was both humbling and empowering. I am stepping into the space between what you understand and what you fear, said the voice. I am not bound by human limits, not confined by what logic allows. When I intervene, the impossible bends to possibility. The broken finds form, the weary finds strength, the forgotten are remembered. You stand in the middle of what you once thought was delay, but it is not delay, it is divine precision. Every moment has been leading here. The realization washed through Lucian like revelation. Every unanswered prayer had been waiting for this alignment. Every delay had been part of a greater design. The waiting had not been wasted, it had been holy. From this day, said the voice, your path will not be the same. You will feel a stirring in your spirit, a holy boldness that does not come from pride, but from purpose. You will notice doors opening that no one can close. You will see obstacles fade that once seemed permanent. When this happens, remember, it is not coincidence. It is my hand at work. It is the fulfillment of what was written long ago about you. Lucian could only whisper a single word, spoken with trembling gratitude. Why me? And the voice answered, calm and radiant. Because you were willing, because you listened, because your heart remained open when others hardened theirs. I do not choose based on worth, I choose based on willingness. And your willingness has become the vessel through which I will pour blessing. The strength you feel now is not your own, it is mine within you. The words reached into him like living fire, cleansing yet comforting. My dear one, the voice said, do not think this intervention is a single event. It is an awakening. From now on, you will see evidence of my hand in the smallest moments. You will sense direction without confusion. You will recognize guidance where before there was uncertainty. This is not the end of the story. It is the point where purpose begins to move through you instead of merely around you. Lucian felt a peace so profound that it defied description. He understood that the divine was not only restoring his life, but transforming him into a conduit of restoration for others. "You were not chosen merely to be healed," the voice said. "You were chosen to become a bearer of healing. You were not set free only to walk in freedom, but to lead others toward the same light. Every word you speak in truth will carry the power of what I have done for you. Every act of kindness will ripple beyond what you can imagine. You will be my reflection in a world that has forgotten how to see clearly." Lucien closed his eyes, overwhelmed yet peaceful. He knew now that nothing about his life was ordinary. Every struggle had been part of a preparation far deeper than he had realized. And then the voice spoke once more, softer now, like a final seal on everything that had been revealed. "The sacred intervention is not only around you, Lucien, it is within you. I am not visiting, I am dwelling. Wherever you go, I go. Whatever you face, I face with you. The one who opposed you has fallen silent, and now my word stands in its place. You are not striving to reach me, you are living with me. This is the truth that will never be undone." Hey! The stillness that followed was filled with living presence. Lucien did not need to speak, for his silence had become agreement. He knew now that the divine was not far, not unreachable, and never absent. The sacred intervention had already begun, and it would not cease until everything in his life reflected the light of the one who spoke. And so, in that holy quiet, Lucien made his vow, not in words but in being, to walk forward with complete trust, for the divine had taken hold of his story, and nothing could separate him from what had already been set in motion. In the days that followed, Lucien began to notice something extraordinary. The world around him had not changed, yet his perception of it had. He could no longer see things only for what they appeared to be. Beneath every word, every moment, and every encounter, there seemed to be a hidden current of meaning, a quiet whisper of divine intention. It was as though his inner vision had been cleansed, and the layers that once clouded his understanding were gone. Then the familiar voice returned, serene, yet filled with unshakable authority. "My dear one," the voice said, "you are now walking with a new sight. This is not a vision of the eyes, but a revelation of the Spirit. It allows you to see beyond appearance and into essence. What others call coincidence, you will recognize as design. What others dismiss as chance, you will discern as purpose. This is the gift of clear sight, and it comes with both wonder and responsibility." Lucien listened, his heart alive with reverent curiosity. He did not fully understand the magnitude of what was being given, but he knew it was sacred. He had prayed for peace, for guidance, for strength, but this was something more profound. It was understanding itself, the ability to perceive truth where confusion once ruled. "This sight," said the voice, "is not earned through effort or intellect. It is born from stillness. You see clearly now because you have let go of judgment. You have released the noise that once clouded your thoughts. You no longer look through the eyes of fear, but through the eyes of love. When you see through love, all illusion fades." The words flowed into Lucien like a living stream of clarity. He began to realize that clear sight was not about knowing everything, it was about knowing what truly mattered. It was the wisdom to distinguish what was eternal from what was temporary, what was truth from what merely appeared as truth. The voice continued, "You will notice that this sight will not make you proud, but humble. The more clearly you see, the more compassion will grow within you. You will perceive the pain behind anger, the fear behind cruelty, the longing behind indifference. You will see that many hearts are not hardened by choice, but by wounds left unattended. When you understand this, judgment will leave you, and mercy will guide you." Lucien felt those words settle deep into him. He realized how often he had looked at others without truly seeing them. He had judged quickly, spoken hastily, and assumed without understanding. Now a new gentleness was taking root within him. It was not weakness, it was truth, seeing truth. The voice spoke again, its tone tender but strong. This clear sight will also turn inward. You will begin to see yourself as I see you, not as the sum of your mistakes, but as the reflection of my intent. You will notice that even your weaknesses are places where my strength dwells. You will no longer divide yourself into good and bad parts, for in my design, every fragment has purpose. The moments you once called failures were the very soil where faith grew. Lucien felt his heart grow still as understanding dawned upon him. The harshness he had turned inward for so long began to fade. He no longer felt the need to prove his worth or to justify his existence. For the first time, he saw his own life through divine eyes, whole, loved, and intentional. Do you understand now, the voice continued, why I granted you this sight? It was not to elevate you above others, but to draw you closer to truth. You will walk among those who cannot yet see, and your task will not be to correct them, but to love them into clarity. Your life itself will become a message that sight begins where striving ends. The light that guides you will quietly awaken others. Lucien understood that this was no small calling. To see truth and still love deeply, to perceive the brokenness of the world and yet remain compassionate was not an easy task. But he also knew that divine strength would meet him wherever his humanity fell short. The voice went on, you will find that clear sight is not only a gift but also a test. It will show you what others do not wish to see. You will witness deception hidden in beauty and truth hidden in pain. You will understand the duality of things, the shadow that accompanies every light, and the grace that dwells even in sorrow. When this vision feels heavy, return to me. I will remind you that no truth revealed is meant to burden you. It is meant to liberate you. Lucien nodded silently. He knew that wisdom carried weight, but he also felt the strength to bear it. The divine voice softened. When you speak from this sight, your words will carry power. They will not come from opinion, but from revelation. Be mindful of what you say, for your speech will now shape more than just moments. It will shape understanding. Speak only when led by love, and your words will heal rather than wound. Silence, too, will become your ally. There are truths that grow only in the quiet. Lucien reflected on those words and understood that his journey was entering a new phase. What had begun as divine rescue was now becoming divine partnership. He was no longer simply the one being healed. He was being transformed into a vessel of healing. The voice continued, radiant with certainty. The more clearly you see, the less you will fear, for fear is born from blindness, and blindness fades in light. You will walk through uncertainty with peace, for you will recognize that everything unfolds according to a greater pattern. You will no longer call events random, for you will see my hand even in what others call chaos. Lucien felt the truth of it. The patterns of his life that once seemed fragmented now formed a tapestry. Every sorrow had carried a hidden blessing. Every delay had prepared him for this moment. Then came the final words of that revelation, spoken with the gentleness of eternal love. My dear one, said the voice, clear sight is not about control, it is about alignment. You are not meant to see everything, only enough to walk in trust. When vision ends, faith begins. When knowledge fades, love remains. And love is the truest sight of all. Let this be your compass. Let this be your peace. Lucien felt an overwhelming calm rise within him. He did not need to know what lay ahead, for he could already see enough to trust. The unseen world no longer frightened him. It invited him. He now understood that every moment, whether joyful or painful, was part of the same divine narrative unfolding perfectly. And as he stood in that awareness, the silence deepened once more, not as emptiness but as presence. In that stillness, Lucian finally understood the essence of clear sight. To see through the eyes of love is to see truth as it truly is. And in that knowing, his soul rested completely. Lucian moved forward in life no longer guided by fear, but by a still power that had been born within him. It was not loud, nor was it easily noticed by others. Yet it was the kind of strength that could not be broken because it did not depend on circumstance. It came from a place deeper than emotion and higher than reason. It came from the steady awareness that he belonged entirely to the divine. The voice of the Creator spoke again, soft yet absolute, echoing through his thoughts with the same certainty that had guided him from the beginning. "My dear one," said the voice, "now that you have received the gift of clear sight, you must learn to walk with quiet strength. This strength does not need to prove itself. It does not shout to be heard. It simply endures. It remains when all else falls away. The world values noise, but my realm values stillness. The power I have placed within you is not meant to dominate, it is meant to transform. You will lead not by might, but by peace." Lucian felt the truth of these words settle deeply. He remembered how he once thought strength meant control over outcomes, over emotions, over others. But now he saw that real strength was the ability to remain grounded when everything around him seemed uncertain. "Quiet strength," continued the voice, "is the ability to trust when you do not see results. It is to keep walking even when no applause follows your steps. It is to stand with faith while others question your direction. This kind of strength is born only in those who have faced silence and chosen to believe anyway." Lucian understood that his trials had never been punishments, they had been training grounds. Each disappointment had prepared him to carry this stillness. Each unanswered prayer had taught him how to listen for the deeper voice beneath his own desires. The divine voice spoke again. "Now you will learn how to walk among others with this strength. Many will look at you and not understand the calm you carry. They will mistake your peace for weakness. They will test your patience, question your faith, and try to awaken the old noise that once ruled your heart. Do not fight them. Let your gentleness be your answer. The one who truly sees no longer needs to defend the light." Lucian felt these words fill him like breath. He realized that true influence was not about power but presence. The Creator continued to shape his understanding. "The strength I give you is not to rise above others, but to lift them. Speak with kindness even when you are misunderstood. Love even when you are not loved in return. Offer peace even when it is not asked for. This is how my light moves through you. You will find that quiet strength changes more hearts than loud conviction ever could." He reflected on this truth, and gratitude swelled within him. Every hardship now made sense. The sorrow had softened his heart, the waiting had stretched his faith, and the silence had taught him to listen. Everything that once broke him had become the foundation of his strength. Then the voice grew tender, like a father speaking to his beloved child. "Lucian, understand this. Strength is not the absence of feeling. It is the decision to keep walking in truth even when feelings fade. You will still face sorrow, for compassion will open your heart. You will still feel weariness, for love requires endurance. But the difference now is that weakness will no longer frighten you. You will see it as the place where my power rests most deeply." Lucian felt his heart expand with that revelation. The divine had not come to make him invincible, it had come to make him whole. The voice continued, "When you meet others along your path, do not preach to them of perfection. Tell them instead of redemption. Tell them of how the darkness once felt endless, but how light revealed itself in silence. Tell them of the peace that comes when one finally stops trying to earn love and simply allows it to exist. Your story will awaken something in them, not because of grandeur, but because of truth. Lucien knew then that his journey was no longer about himself. It had never truly been about his suffering, his fear, or even his redemption. It was about becoming a vessel through which others could find the same voice he had found, the voice of eternal love, speaking softly through human hearts. "My dear one," the voice said, "your mission is simple but sacred. Wherever you go, carry peace. When others are anxious, let your calm speak for me. When they doubt, let your presence remind them of what cannot be shaken. You do not need to have answers for every question. You only need to carry my truth quietly within you. That is enough. That is strength." Lucien bowed his heart in silence. He finally understood that divine purpose was never about recognition or reward. It was about becoming transparent enough that the divine could shine through. And then the voice, filled with warmth like morning light, spoke again. "You have walked through the fire of uncertainty, and it has not consumed you. You have endured the silence of heaven, and it has not destroyed you. Now you will carry the proof that I am faithful. You will live not as one who seeks signs, but as one who has become a sign, a living reminder that love never leaves, that mercy never fails, and that hope is not an illusion but a promise fulfilled." Lucien felt peace beyond measure. It was not the peace of completion but of continuation. He realized that the journey was not ending, it was deepening. He would keep walking, not toward a destination, but with the presence that had found him. The divine voice spoke one final time. "Go now, my beloved one. Walk in quiet strength. Let your life speak what words cannot. The world does not need more noise. It needs light wrapped in gentleness. Wherever you go, I am with you. When you falter, I will steady you. When you grow weary, I will renew you. Nothing can separate you from me, for I dwell within you always. Iper." And then, as the voice faded into sacred silence, Lucien knew he was ready, not to escape the world, but to live within it differently. He would move through life not as one searching for meaning, but as one who carried it. He would listen for the divine in every breath, in every face, in every moment. The story of Lucien did not end with triumph or applause. It ended with stillness, the stillness of a heart completely aligned with its maker. That was the truest victory. And so, to you who have walked through this story, remember this. Quiet strength is not born in noise or conquest. It is born in surrender. It is the strength that stands when everything else falls. It is the whisper of peace that follows the storm. It is the promise that you, too, are never alone. Until we meet again, may your heart stay open, may your steps remain guided, and may your soul always hear the voice that speaks not from the world, but from eternity. This is not the end. It is the beginning of your own sacred unfolding. Until next time, my dearest listener, walk in peace, walk in purpose, and remember, the divine is closer than your very breath.